So plus there are different theories now that are being said to be applicable in nursing informatics. And one of these theories that we are looking into is what we refer to as your change theory. Again, just as a recap, remember class that your theory is important because it is your theory that informs practice. Now, your theory class informs practice. In the same way, class, your practice is also used to improve the theories that we have. And then added to that, you also have your research. So in the same way, there is a two-way relationship between theory practice, theory research. But then, you might be wondering why we are learning theories. The purpose of that is to guide our practice as nurses later on, and then in particular in nursing informatics for this one. Okay, sorry for the light background, but then plus for your change theory was actually formulated by Kurt Lewin. Okay, so plus Kurt Lewin, the father of social psychology. Plus Lewin has given us the three-stage model. That three-stage model is where unfreezing, change, and then freezing. According to Lewin, behavior is considered to be a dynamic balance of forces working in opposing directions. Now look at the class ha. Sinabi niya ang word na dynamic. Okay, imagine that it refers to dynamic. So class, when I say dynamic, diba, it's constantly moving. Okay, when I talk about class dynamic, it's constantly moving. But then Lewin says that there is balance despite these dynamics. And then class, take note that it is working in opposing directions. Ibig sabihin class, when we talk about change, and when we talk about, behavior, it is a balance between two opposing behavior. Siguro you just picture out yourself na parang may angel dito, tapos plus may evil dito, or may demon dito sa right side, and then they are opposing to what to recommend to you, and then here comes your behavior. Okay, in the same way, class, that is the behavior defined to you by Kurt Lewin. Now, let's try to look at the three stages of change according to Lewin. So, class, sabi niya, unfreeze, change, and refreeze. Class, when I say unfreeze, what are being unfrozen? Okay, what is being unfrozen, class, is, ano nga ba yung unfrozen natin, class? Let's talk about old practices. No? What is being unfrozen is your old practices, your customs, and then maybe your culture. Okay? Now, for example, in the hospital, have you heard of medication cards? Nakakita na ba kayo ng medication cards when it comes to the fundamentals of nursing? Okay, so class, medication cards have been there in our practice for long, no? And many hospitals have still been using your medication cards. Okay, it does not look like that one. Pokemon po yan. Okay, walang medication card kay Google. Okay, mga things na hindi na alam ni Google. Okay, now plus let's talk about your medication card. Plus your medication card has long been actually in practice. And the purpose of your medication card is to guide you in the medicine that you are giving to your patient. But right now, my dear students, your medication cards is not anymore recommended actually based on JCI standards. Pag sinabi ko guys na JCI standards, that your Joint Commission International, okay, that class previously that is known as the Joint Commission for Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations. Okay, so that's your JCI. Plus yung JCI mo kumbaga in short terms is that sila po yung what do you call this? Sila po yung council which accredits hospitals, no? Which accredits hospitals to make them of high quality. Okay, high quality standard. Kita niyo yan, class, yan yung seal nila. So if you will enter a hospital which is JCI standard, rest assured that the quality of care that you can receive is top of the line. Now, going back to the point on medication card, class, yung medication card po natin has long been practiced in the area. But right now po, hindi na po ganon yung recommendation. So ano po yung recommendation? Instead of the nurse class looking at the medication card, the nurse class must directly look into the medication sheet. Okay, the nurse class must directly look into the medication sheet. Kasi class, according to research, the findings now is that once you transfer from several form to another, for example, di ba, i-order ng doktor, pagkatapos ilalagay mo sa medication sheet, pagkatapos yan class, ilalagay mo pa sa Cardex, pagkatapos yan class, ilalagay mo pa sa other forms such as your medication card. Class, according to study, nagpapa-increase lang daw yan ng error. Nagpapa-increase lang daw yan ng error. So ano po daw dapat? Dapat diretsahan na po from the medication sheet. And since we are talking about nursing informatics class, one of the trend right now that is being practiced is your cow. Okay, if you've heard of cow on my previous discussion, that would be your computer on wheels. Okay, computer on wheels na po tayo. So ibig sabihin class, no, the medications that your patient will be getting will be right away class check on the computer before you administer it. And by the time that you administer it, you will encode on the computer that you have done it. Okay, so class, it's computer on wheels because you can move the computer all throughout the department that you have. Okay, that's your computer on wheels. So why am I giving that as an example? Because class, your medication card is an example of an old practice, is an example of custom, is also an example class of culture in the hospital setting. When we talk about unfreezing, guys, kumbaga, pag matigas na yung ulo, i-defrost natin. Plus, it's the process of letting go of an old pattern that is somehow already considered to be counterproductive. Okay, so mga old patterns, mga nakagawian natin. Then, by the time class that you unfreeze, you would elicit the change. And class, when you talk about change, that's the movement that involves a process of change. And take note, so process of change class, my thoughts, my feelings, my behavior, and all of these three combined. Now, bakit po in-emphasize yung thoughts, feelings, and behavior? One particular challenge that you will encounter when you are implementing change is that people would tend to resist. Okay? May tendency po na yung tao mag-resist. And then class, once you have introduced the new thing to be done, once you have introduced the new procedure to be done, you can do already your refreezing. In other words, okay na siya, maganda na siya, pwede na siya nating ilagay sa refrigerator para ma-freeze ulit. At para class ma-sustain ang status quo. So class, it's the change as the new habit and it will become already your standard operating procedure. Now look at this. No? Look at this. Class, before you do something or before you change something, ano po yung recommendation sa atin? Mag-unfreeze ka muna. Okay? Before you do something, before you change something, you still need to unfreeze. Hindi po pwede po, according to Lewin, hindi pa pwede that you will go into the area and then you will tell them, hey Marie, magbago na po tayo. Hey Jessa, ito na po yung bago nating implement. Hindi pa pwede. So I need to make Jessa and Marie understand. Marie, Jessa, your medication cards is not anymore recommended because of the following. Kasi class, by the time that I will just directly tell them that they need to change, the tendency class is that they will resist the change. Okay, so you need to unfreeze first before you change them. Parang ganito na lang yung isipin nyo. Pag pipilitin nyo po ang ice na mag-change, magbe-break. Diba? The ice class will break. But if you will allow the ice first to melt and then you allow the ice to freeze again, okay, what would happen? The ice may be able to resume or go back to its original state. Okay, so that's one thing that you can remember. Now, class, when you talk about change theory, there is always two forces that are happening there. One class is your driving force, and then the other one is your restraining force. Now, when you talk about driving force, obviously, as illustrated there, class, your driving force is the one that promotes change. Again, class, your driving force is the one that promotes change. Whereas, class, your restraining forces are the forces, class, which slows down change. Okay, class, they are forces that demotes change. Now, point as an example, during the implementation, class, of new technology, let's say, for example, implementation of new technology. Class, give me an example of a driving force. Give me an example of a driving force when you are implementing a new technology. Anybody?
Meeting patient's needs, sir.
Sige, sino yon? Hindi ko makita. Unmute again, please.
Si Sir Alio, sir, meeting patient's needs.
Okay, it could be patient's needs, di ba? So class, you acknowledge that it is the need of the patient, so it would promote change. What else? Sige na, anybody? Pag sinabi kong new technology, bakit nga ba tayo inclined to change it? What's the usual reason that we have? Anybody? You can use the raise hand button or you could use the chat box. What could be the possible reason, class? Now, what could be the possible reason why why would we support change? Sige nga. Plus, another example perhaps is that you would want care to be efficient. Okay, you would want care to be efficient. You would want care to be easy. You would want your work to be easy. On the other hand, what could be a restraining force? Ano po yung possible na mag-slow down, class, ng change natin? Give me an example of a restraining force, especially, class, when it comes to your new technology. Ano po yung usually nagre-resist po ng change? Anybody?
Cost of development, sir.
Again? Cost of development. Okay, I think I captured it as cost of development. Tama, ano? Kasi kadalasan sasabihin ang mahal-mahal, di ba? Now, another thing, class, the fear for change. Especially if you are dealing with people who have been long in the organization, tapos, class, magpapa-implement ka ng change, ano po yung mafe-feel nila? Kaya natatakot sila ng change. Kasi, class, baka bago, baka hindi nila alam kung anong mangyayari. Okay, so there is fear of change. Okay? So those are example, class, of restraining forces. So wherever you may be, whatever you will do, Kurt Lewin tells us that there will be a driving force and there will be a restraining force. Just like, for example, nursing informatics. We are learning nursing informatics kasi sabi natin technology. And then, di ba, when we say technology, we usually equate it to be nice. But come to think of it, for example, computer on wheels sa hospital natin. What could be one of the struggles? One of the struggle, class, could be your internet connection. Okay, di ba? Maliban sa budget, isang struggle mo, internet connection. Maganda nga mag-computer on wheels, kaso dito sa atin, lalo na kapag sa mga provincial or sa mga province ka nagtatrabahong hospital, wala silang stable na internet connection to accommodate that. Okay, so that also becomes one of the struggle na that your patient may have. Okay, or you as a nurse, may have. Now, plus, reactions to change are guided actually or grounded actually in the basic human needs for self-esteem, safety, and security. So pag titingnan po natin, parang Kurt Lewin is reminding us that our basic needs still needs to be complied. No? That is why people would change. Plus, if I talk about the theory of basic needs, what's the name of that theory? What's the theory for basic needs? Anybody?
Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Okay, very good. So you have your Maslow hierarchy of needs. No? So pag titingnan po natin, class, si Maslow hierarchy of needs, di ba may 4 levels po tayo dyan? You have your P, you have your S, you have your L, you have your E, you have your A. So class, when we talk about your P, that would be your physiologic needs. Okay, class, when you talk about S, that will be your, ano nga ba yung S? Safety and security. Class, what is your L? Anybody? What's the L there?
Love and belonging, sir.
Very good. So you have your love and belongingness. Now, class, your E there is esteem, as in self-esteem. And then, class, you have your actualization. So pag titingnan po natin, according also to Kurt Lewin, one trigger, class, why people would change is because of this 5. Okay? It's because of that 5. Now, take for example, if you will look into a patient, tapos, class, itong pasyente mo hindi na makakain. Dahil, class, your patient is having, let's say, for example, your patient is having an acid attack. Okay? Yung patient mo is having an acid attack. Now, class, your patient realized na may GERD siya. Class, GERD yung tawag sa disorder na may acid attack. So, class, ano pong tendency ng pasyente? Dahil alam niya na uncomfortable sa kanya, dahil alam niya, class, that it would be painful to her if ever nagkaka-acid attack siya, the tendency is that mag-healthy diet na po siya. Okay, the tendency is that mag-healthy diet na po siya. Kasi nga nasasaktan siya kapag itutuloy niya yung diet niya na puro coke, kapag itutuloy niya yung diet niya na puro meat, kapag itutuloy niya yung diet niya na puro fats, sigurado masasaktan siya. So the trigger there, class, is the physiologic need. Now, other than that, for example, if you talk about maternal and child nursing, tapos, class, may bagong kakapanganak lang, di ba, class, kung bago lang kakapanganak, they would have psychological concerns. Di ba? If you can recall, no, there's a phase of letting go. If I recall it right, no, letting go, taking in, okay? Those are the phases that your patients who are pregnant would encounter. Now, class, their actions are actually because of their need for safety and security and also love and belongingness. So, ibig sabihin, class, yung change, no? Yung change natin would be also depending on our basic needs. Now, for example, if I will tell you right now, hey, you buy a new laptop. Pag wala kang laptop, right away siguro bibili ka kapag kailanganin mo. Pero if your laptop is still functional, di ba the tendency is that you will not buy your laptop. So guys, your reactions to change are actually based on your basic needs. And plus change involves modification or alteration. Okay? So plus, obviously, di ba, pag may change talagang may modification tapos may alteration. But ito po yung dapat nating i-remember. Your change class could be planned or it could also be unplanned. Your change class could be planned or it can also be unplanned. Now, among your patients, the stress class, the level of stress is really higher among patients with unplanned change. Okay, so yan po yung titingnan natin. Now, point for example, no, pregnancy class is a change, di ba? Pregnancy is a change. Car accident is also a change. Pag titingnan ko po sa dalawa, sino po yung mas stressful? Pregnancy po ba or car accident? Guys?
Car accident.
Car accident because nobody plans for car accident, diba? Unless kung masyadong maluwag ang buhay mo, tapos parang plano mo, magka-aksidente yung ibang tao, edi iwan sa'yo. Pero class, you know, it's unplanned. No? It's unplanned. Now, what are the components of change theory? Class, for us to elicit change, for us to trigger change, we need to recognize the area where change is needed. Okay? So hindi naman pwede, di ba, that you will stand in the hospital and then you will shout, I want change. Tapos magbabago na lang lahat. Hindi po ganon, di ba? So dapat po tingnan natin. For example, when you're dealing with the system, kaya halimbawa sa hospital, sira yung computer ninyo, you could not right away say that i-replace natin yung entire computer. No. You try to identify what's the problem. Is it the mouse ba? Is it the keyboard ba? Is it the central processing unit ba? And then plus analysis of a situation to determine what forces exist to maintain the situation and what forces are working to change it. Now, for example, in the hospital, no, if we would want to implement change, you need actually to identify key people in the hospital. Why? Who are these key people? Class, may mga key people kayo that they are the ones who resist change. Okay? Yung mga key people class na yung gusto nila, no, dapat ganito yung gawin natin. They would want to stay in status quo kasi yan ang ginagawa even from time immemorial. That's why they would want to stay for status quo. Okay? So, you need to identify those people. Sir, bakit ko pa sila i-identify? Kasi pasaway sila. Class, you need to involve them first. Okay? Class, kung sino po yung matigas ang ulo, kung sino po yung nagre-resist, you try to involve them first. Because by the time class that they are involved, there will be higher tendency that your change will be towards the better. And then you also determine what are the forces that work to change it. Okay, so is it your boss ba? Is it the market prices? Okay, or is it the demands of the public? For example, during the time of COVID-19, di ba major change? Nagwe-wear tayo ng mask. Nagwe-wear tayo ng PPE when we are in the hospital setting. So what triggered the change? It's actually the government issuances. And then class, you identify the methods by which change can occur. Ito students, future nurses, one thing that you need to remember is that change does not happen overnight. So hindi po pwede na gagawin nyo lang po yung change right away. So you need to identify methods by which change can occur. So will it be an abrupt change? Will it be a change that will be facilitated? Or what are the different strategies that you will be using? Then class, recognize the influence of group mores or customs to change. Kaya ibig sabihin class, ano po yung kultura ng grupo nila? There are people kasi who would really make sure that the change would not happen while they are still in the hospital setting. Then class, identify the method that the reference group uses to bring about change. So ano po yung ginagawa? For example, sila po yung matigas ang ulo. Pag sila po yung matigas ang ulo, ano po yung gagawin natin? Kakausapin natin sila. Hey mga matitigas ang ulo, ano po yung suggestion natin? Or no, allow me to rephrase that. You do not say class na hey hard-headed, no? So for example, you will say, ma'am, sir, I understand that you find it difficult for change to occur. Ma'am, what do you suggest to be done on the problem at hand? Okay? Kadalasan kasi class, human behavior would tell us that those who are mahilig magreklamo, those who are very fond of raising their concerns, are also the same people, class, no? Are also the same people who are toxic, and also the same people, class, who just want to be heard. Okay? Paminsan-minsan nagrereklamo yan, sasabihin, ay, ayaw ko ng change, ay, napakahirap ng change, ay, bakit mag-change? Pero you know what, at the end of the day, ang kailangan lang naman nila, attention mo. Ang kailangan lang naman nila, involve mo sila. Okay? Later on, class, kung kayo na yung nag-i-implement ng change, wherever institution you are, please do not argue with these people. Okay? Halimbawa, Syra, gusto kong magpa-change. Sabihin ko, gusto kong palitan ko yung grading system natin. Syra, pag ayaw mo, huwag ka kaagad mag-argue. Huwag mong sabihin, bakit naman, sir? Bakit magpapalit na naman? Ganito naman, blah, blah, blah. Magtanong ka lang bilang nurse, sir, may I know bakit po gusto natin ng change? Kasi class, yung madaldal usually sa hospital, sila po yung actually, they would want to be noticed and they want the attention, class, to be shared to them also. And by the time na tatanungin mo sila, halimbawa tatanungin mo, ma'am, sir, pag magkaganon po, ano po yung suggestion ninyo para ma-address po natin ang problem na yan? Kadalasan po, alam nyo, wala naman silang sagot. Okay? Kadalasan, wala naman silang sagot. In other words, magaling lang talaga silang magdaldal. In other words, class, magaling lang talaga silang magreklamo. But by the time that you will ask for their opinion, they are unable to provide so. Kung kaya, my tip to you is that you involve them because rest assured, okay, that will be a way for you not to make your life difficult. Now, class, let's talk about cybernetics. No? Plus, cybernetics is a very good field, a very new field of science. And when we talk about class cybernetics, it is a transdisciplinary approach to exploring regulatory systems, their structure, class, and their possibilities. So class, what do we mean by cybernetics? No? Class, sinasabi dito ang term na transdisciplinary. So class, when we talk about the term transdisciplinary, ibig sabihin class, it's between disciplines. No? It's between disciplines. It involves several disciplines. Okay? So class, when we say transdisciplinary, so class, halimbawa, when we conduct research, pag sinabi kong transdisciplinary research, I am a nurse, with me will be a doctor, another companion is also a medtech, another companion is also a pharmacist. So class, when we say transdisciplinary, you involve several disciplines. Okay, class, trans as in you involve, disciplinary, several disciplines. And what is the purpose of that class? To explore the regulatory systems, structures, constraints, and possibilities. So as Weiner defines it in 1948, it is the scientific study of control and communication in the animal, machine, and society. So class, pag sinabi kong cybernetics, cybernetics does not actually refer to technology alone. Okay? So class, when you talk about class your cybernetics, it entails communications and automated control systems. Okay, it entails class communication and automated controls systems. Okay, now what else? So class, cybernetics includes the study of feedback, the black boxes. I don't know if you've heard of black boxes that are found in your airplanes. Okay, I don't know if you've heard of them. So meron po tayong tinatawag na black box. Okay, so class, a black box is a system which can be viewed in terms of inputs and outputs without the knowledge of its internal workings. So kung nakikita nyo po, black box, your black box is used as a flight data recorder. So parang requirement po yan ng law. Okay, it's the requirement of the law, class. Okay, it's a requirement of the law that there should be a black box in each of the airplanes so that whatever will happen with the plane, we will be able to determine na kung ano po yung nangyari sa aeroplano. Okay? And then plus you have your communication and control in living organisms, machine organization, including self-organization. Siguro the keyword that you would need to capture in cybernetics, no, for us to understand cybernetics is the word automation. Okay, class, the main concern talaga of cybernetics is your automation, and then class, your communication. Okay, automation plus and communication. Now, ano pong ibig sabihin dyan? If you are, for example, in the US of A, picture class a home, and then class in that home, there is a warming system and then a cooling system. Ibig sabihin, for example, pag winter sa labas class, the house will just warm by itself. Okay, kasi class, it is able to detect the temperature, and then class, it knows that it needs to maintain the house at a certain temperature. Okay, in other words, class, pag winter sa labas, heater po yung gagana sa bahay. Heater yung gagana. Pero pag summer at sobrang init sa labas, yung air conditioning unit naman namin ang gagana. Okay? So, as if may ganun ako sa bahay. So, class, that's one example of your cybernetics. Okay, so class, concepts of studied by cybernetics would include learning, cognition, adaptation, social control, emergence, convergence, communication, efficiency, efficacy, and connectivity. Okay, so class, when we talk about cybernetics, kasi it's from the Greek word Kubernetes, which would mean steering, kay steering governor. Let me pick up some examples for you para mas maintindihan yung cybernetics. Okay? That one. Okay, so there are a lot actually of cybernetics. Okay, so class, in our case actually, wala silang mga technology na pinapakita. Class, in our case actually, example po natin ng mga cybernetics natin would include machines that would specifically stimulate a part of a body. That's one example of your cybernetics. What else nga ba? For example, class, meron po tayong tinatawag na TENS, no? Okay? In a while. So class, meron po tayong tinatawag na TENS. Ang TENS po natin is, okay, that's a machine, no? Your transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. Class, pag titingnan nyo po yung TENS, ngayon nga parang cellphone na lang ito kalaki, ano? Class, your TENS class delivers small amount of electricity. And what does it do, no? Your TENS class is actually used among your patients with chronic pain. So ano po yung ginagawa? That small amount of electricity class that is fired through the nerves can actually decrease the pain experience of your patient. Okay? That is also an example of cybernetics because we are trying to make use class of stimulation of the nerves to help one individual. Now class, your cybernetics introduces the concept of circulatory and circular causal systems. So in other words, alam niya class that the relationship is circular in nature. For example, if I would administer an electricity going class towards the nerves, I know that there will be a decrease in the pain experience. And because of the decrease of the pain experience, it will become more comfortable in part of the patient. Then class, it would go back naman doon class sa mga general systems theory natin, wherein every system has a goal. And then class, the system would act and aim toward the goal. And then environment will be the one to affect the aim. In other words, also class, your information returns to the system. That return of information to your system is being referred to as your feedback. Okay, yung pagbalik po ng information sa system natin is tinatawag nating feedback. And then class, your system measures the differences between the state and the goal. And the difference class between the state and the goal class is being referred to as your error. In other terms class, it's also being referred to as your variance. Ano pong ibig sabihin? Halimbawa, if I'm making juice in my company, and then class, naset ko yung juice na 200 ml. Class, may sineset pong standard yung nasa companies, baka po sabihin niya that 198 ml going towards 202 ml is still considered to be accurate. Okay? So class, diba, the standard is 200 ml. 198 ml to 202 ml is still being considered as accurate. Now, if ang reading po natin magwa 195 ml, meaning po there's already error or variance. Meaning there is already error or variance. And that error class or variance is the difference between the state and the goal. Kasi class, our goal, di ba, is 200, pero yung current state po natin is 195 ml. So class, when it detects the error, the system will corrects the action to aim toward the goal. Okay, so ano pong gagawin natin? Pag maganda po yung system, right away po ikakorek po yan ng system natin. So what are the scope and applications of your cybernetics? It is the basis of modern communication systems, also class the application in cognitive science for the modeling of learning, and then class also the application of management science. So class cybernetics is actually applied in discipline relying on feedback processes. So pwede po siya sa health sciences, pwede din po siya sa sociology, pwede din po siya sa psychology, which are based on communication process. Now, if you would look at cybernetics class, a very good example perhaps in nursing care is your endocrine system. One good example class is ang tinatawag nating endocrine system. Bakit po class? I'll point out a machine which is referred to as your insulin pump. Class, ano nga bang disease? What do you call the disease class wherein there is lack of insulin in the body? What do you call the disease wherein there is lack of insulin in the body?
Diabetes mellitus, sir.
Very good. That will be your diabetes mellitus. So class, we know that in diabetes mellitus, there is a decrease of insulin in our body. Kaya nga po ang effect is what happens to the blood sugar levels in diabetes. Guys, increase or decrease?
The increase, sir.
Nag-i-increase yung blood sugar levels. Now class, may machine na tayong tinatawag na insulin pump. Ano pong gagawin ni insulin pump? Class, your insulin pump is like, it's a machine that is, and then a part of it class is embedded through the skin of the patient. By the time class that the insulin pump would detect that the blood sugar levels are high, it would release insulin. Okay, by the time class that it would detect that the blood sugar levels are high, it would release insulin. By the time naman class that it would detect that the blood sugar levels are low, it would decrease the amount of insulin. Okay, so kung nakikita nyo class, no, kung nakikita nyo, merong automation ng process na nangyayari. Hindi na po natin kailangang sabihin na, uy, mag-release ka ng insulin. Uy, huwag kang mag-release ng insulin. Okay, class, so you have already what you refer to as your insulin pump. Okay, it looks like this one. Okay, so class, small machine lang. And then have you seen the tube? And then class, that part here, huh? Okay, this part here, class, this one. That part actually class, may maliit yan na needle na embedded through the skin of the patient in such a way that the blood sugar class will be continuously checked, and at the same time students, at the same time, anong tawag natin dito, insulin is also released to the body. Okay, so that's an example of your insulin pump, one of the trends right now that we have in nursing care. Okay, so that's it. We have discussed two theories for this day. That's your change theory, and then the other one is your cybernetics theory. Any questions in mind so far?